Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
You know, it's extra ironic when one of the people who is so prominently featured in the intro is not here. And so they get a whole segment about their passion for Star Wars and mall packaging and how nostalgic it is. And they're not even here. And then Hannah just gets, why am I not in the intro? Let's come up with a snappy line.
That's all I get. I will riot if I don't get more.
One of these days, maybe for the new year, we'll get things sorted out. But anyways, welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld Podcast, your weekly source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, rumor, and discussion. And this week, we are breaking down that episode of Ahsoka. I don't even have to say what the title is of this episode. You all know it. It's that one. But in case you're persnickety like that, it's Shadow Warrior. That is the episode we will be breaking down, getting into all of the crazy things that went down in this episode. We'll also, if we have some time, have a quick look at some of the news stories we've just kind of been skipping for the last 3-4 weeks. And we'll have another classic edition of Ask the SWU. Got a bunch of questions saved from last week. Got some new ones this week. It's going to be a great show. First, though, introductions are in order. In case you're new to the show, you've forgotten who we are. That can happen. My name is Dominic Jones, and with me, as always, he's the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? I've almost forgotten how these things go because we had some. It's. I'm still getting used to this. Okay, spent so much time away, and now I'm just like, oh yeah, I do that thing every week. It's been such a part of my life. Now it was gone. Now it's back, and oh boy, an episode and a half to talk about tonight. This is one that I think we've all been looking forward to breaking down. So this is going to be a very interesting discussion, if I do may say so.
Yeah, I feel like we've been looking forward to breaking down this episode since before this episode came out. Going all the way back to when the series was announced, when we first saw the logo for Ahsoka, and it had those world between worlds-y kind of symbols. I think everybody was anticipating there would be an episode like this, and we finally made it. We finally made it several weeks ago, a couple of months ago now, and now we finally get to discuss it. Also with us, as always, from the Raeside, it's Hannah Raeside.
G'day there. Good to be back for this week. I'm glad I didn't miss this one, and it was last week, and then I might be away next week. So I'm glad I'm here for this one. Bloody hell. It is a banger. So much happened. So much to say. Can't wait to get into it.
Absolutely. And of course, we are missing our good friend and co-host, Chris Seekell, but Chris is off watching a documentary about the making of the holiday special, A Disturbance in the Force. Yeah. A Disturbance in the Force. It's a new documentary. It's going to be available on streaming soon. It's going to be available on Blu-ray soon. There's cinema screenings happening all over the world over the next few weeks. I know I'm going to be going to one in Toronto in a couple weeks. And
I have to interject here.
Yeah, go for it.
Interject because Australia, we have iconically missed out on everything. We've never gotten a celebration. They never come here with the screenings. You get all the premiere in the theater and the revisit of this movie and everything. You guys get everything. Everything ever. Even the freaking Lego vacation special. Right. They're like, you know what? Those Australians probs don't even know what Star Wars is. Let's not give it to them for 6 months.
They don't understand what summer is, I think.
Right? So we don't ever get anything for once. Out of all things, they thought, you know what? Those people really like this. They will love an in-depth making of the holiday special. And it's in theaters everywhere. I can choose a bunch of theaters I could go see this documentary at. It's just, I thought that was so funny that this is the thing that we get sent.
Of course, it just makes sense. Makes sense. That's natural. So if you're looking for something to do leading up to the holidays, Disturbance in the Force, there's lots of stuff going on with that, and Chris will have a full report next week from the Los Angeles screening that is going on. And I think like some of the directors and producers are at this one, so there'll be a Q&A. So we'll hear all about that from Chris next week. All right. Let's plug a few things before we dive too deep into the episode. As always, you want to remind you to punch the subscribe button, whether you're subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any number of places where you can listen to podcasts or watch podcasts. Subscribe. That way you don't miss an episode. During the live show, you can super chat with us. That is a way to guarantee your inclusion in Ask the SWU. You can also become a channel member. It's another way to support the show financially. And if you're listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please do so. We'll appreciate those, especially the 5-star ones. Make sure you join the Star Wars Underworld Discord to keep the discussion going between the episodes. All sorts of fun things are always happening over there. Good discussion. And that's another way to submit questions for Ask the SWU. And of course, we've got a whole network of shows. Including the Raeside, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Ion Cannon, and the Tractor Beam. Ion Cannon and the Tractor Beam, you can listen to those live on this very channel. Ion Cannon is Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Tales from what's the other? Tractor Beam. That's the show. Got distracted by the Chiron at the bottom. I was like, what? There's I start to read the wrong show. I'm like, I can't have moving pictures. It's too distracting for me.
Tales Beyond the Raeside Tractor Beam.
Yeah. Tractor Beam is Thursdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. That's perfect for lunchtime. And of course, the Raeside, Hannah's always got cool things going on over on her channel, and Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, always rocking and rolling with sweet content over there. All right. Let's dive into things. Let's talk about it. We're talking about the season 4 Clone Wars episode, Shadow Warrior, General Grievous versus that Gungan warrior. Really, really great.
General Roose Tarples. How dare you not remember his name?
Ben,
legend.
Ben, please tell me I wasn't the only one that thought of that Clone Wars episode when I saw that pop up on Disney Plus. Please tell me you, of all people, Mr. Clone Wars, at least saw that and went, oh, they're reusing that, huh?
Well, no, I was just thinking today how it's amazing how we have 2 episodes, and Clone Wars is this show that's seemingly, Ahsoka is the main character. Clone Wars, Ahsoka is not in that episode. I don't think at all. Weirdly, we get a Shadow Warrior in the Clone Wars that doesn't feature Ahsoka, and then we have an episode of Ahsoka with Shadow Warrior, and so Filoni's just reusing titles all of a sudden. He thinks he's just gone so far he can just do whatever he wants, eh?
Yeah, first he's gonna name his movie Heir to the Empire. Now he's calling this Shadow Warrior. Next thing you know, he'll just be making like season 2 of Ahsoka, and he'll just be like, I don't know, what are we gonna call episode 2? Probably Attack of the Clones. I think that's a good title to bring back.
See, that's what we're missing here is that, we're all thinking, the Filoni film, could be Heir to the Empire. No, Star Wars, Bombad Jedi.
Yes. Give it to me. Yes.
Bring it on. No, of course, we're talking about Ahsoka Season 1, Episode 5, Shadow Warrior, written and directed by Dave Filoni. Original air date, September 12th, 2023. All right, let's go around the table, give some initial impressions of the episode. And Ben, going to shake it up for this week and this week only. Hannah, we're going to you first. What did you think of Shadow Warrior?
Caught by surprise. Shadow Warrior. This episode, I don't think I shut my mouth the whole time. I think I wanted this. I expected this at some point in terms of the intensity. I was really, really hoping for a Clone Wars flashback, very much rumored and discussed. And oh my God, imagine, But I still, even with kind of all the expectation of it, I was still so surprised when we were in it, and we have that moment where Rosario's Ahsoka goes through this fall and through those clouds, and then we see her crouched there, and for that first second I was like, okay, is she like, is this still World Between Worlds, like where are we? And then as she stood and she was much smaller, and I was just like, holy shit, like this is like, oh my god, okay, we're doing this right now. So, and the amount we got was amazing. The role of the journey that we went on in this flashback was amazing. It wasn't just like a scene. It wasn't just, I mean, it's called flashback because it's quite short. It might be a moment or just a look or a face of someone, but this was like a whole journey that we went on through Ahsoka's psyche. There's so much depth in this episode. The wow factor was just incredible. I really loved it, clearly. So yeah, that's my initial impression.
Yeah, it's the wow factor is strong with this one for sure. Ben, what about you? What are your thoughts on Shadow Warrior?
Yeah, because I think previously I talked about this show overall being what I would call a love letter to fans of Star Wars animation, a show that really is built for people. Obviously, we've had the discussion. We will continue to have the discussion of what do you need to watch coming into Ahsoka, what do you not need to watch. But ultimately, Ahsoka is a show designed to appeal to us, people who've been here since the beginning, since 2008, and even before that, of watching Star Wars animated shows and appreciating them and getting through the minutia, and then coming to this. But this episode really captures that feeling more so, and really encapsulates that more so than the entire of all the episodes. Obviously those Clone Wars flashbacks are incredible, but I also appreciated that this episode wasn't all about that. It wasn't all about nostalgia. I appreciate that there is this throughout the flashbacks. You have an A and B storyline. You have what's going on with Hera. You have Jason and what's going on with him, and I'm very intrigued by that. And then going forward, it just ends, and like that's half of the episode. Then there's another half of the episode with the Purgle, and every time I watch this episode, I tear up. But it's not when Hayden shows up. Weirdly, it's the ending where we see, Ahsoka connecting with the Purgle and them going off in the light speed and saying that they're going to go save Sabine and Ezra. Like, that's powerful stuff. I think it's a great encapsulation of just like how you use nostalgia, how you use all these different elements. And obviously we want to see all these things, but ultimately we also want to see push the story forward. And I think this episode does a brilliant job of, okay, let's go back. Let's take a step back and see all these great things. Let's see Anakin in Clone Wars armor, in that armor, like just stuff of dreams, stuff of absolute, like this would never happen. Here we are seeing it on our screens. It's just amazing. But then going forward and going like, okay, now this is the story. This is about Ahsoka going through something, coming out a different person. You see that Rosario Dawson does this brilliant job of showing this evolution of Ahsoka just throughout this episode, of course, through the whole season. And yeah, it's just, I mean, it's genuinely easily, I say that, I see easily like I mean it in a bad way. No, I think there's been an incredible slew of episodes we've gotten in this era of Star Wars TV, but this is near the top, if not the top, in a pinnacle of Star Wars TV episodes.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to the episode that, this episode is sort of defined by the Clone Wars flashbacks, by the stuff in the World Between Worlds. But when I'm thinking about moments, like you were saying there, Ben, almost the moments that are the biggest in this episode don't have anything to do with them, to me at least. Like the Purgle scene, the Jason scene, like those are the moments that really wound up standing out, even amongst all of the amazing things that we were seeing in this episode. So that alone, I think, speaks to the quality of this episode. I think it shows what this series can be and when it is at its best. This is an episode, I'll be honest, this is an episode that has sort of, I've gone on a little bit of a roller coaster with it because, obviously when I first saw it, I've really enjoyed all the things that have been brought up, but there were a few things that sort of stuck out at me as being a bit odd, and that didn't. So I didn't quite enjoy it, I think, as much as everybody else did on the first go around. It was only when I was watching it again for this episode to prepare for this that something sort of finally clicked into place, and some of the moments that have been that felt odd, I finally sort of felt like I was getting the point of them, or I found an interpretation of them that I really liked and finally did push this episode into kind of the same territory, the same tier that it is, I think, for everybody else, for me. So I'm looking forward to getting into all that. I'm looking forward to talking about these highlights of the episode. We'll start in the world between worlds, because that is, basically it's where we left things off last week, and it's where things began this week. And Hannah, I'll go to you, because we talked a bit about this already at the end of last week's show, but what did you think of seeing the world between worlds again, and the way they used it in this episode?
Yeah, I think it's the use of the world between worlds in general of the show, which was just that little bit last week and this week, is just utter perfection. And they could have fumbled that quite well, if anything. But not that I expected it, or because it's Dave Filoni that wrote it, but I was like, you could overdo it. You could do too many. Like, I was worried that a lot of the storyline was actually going to kind of hinge on the use of the world between worlds. I thought there was going to be a lot more in there, but I think the way they used the element was so perfectly done, and I would not change it at all. And I think it was this perfect kind of just turning point, this axis for Ahsoka. It gave her this whole massive crescendo in her character development that she needed. And I mean, entering the start of this episode, and seeing the conversation that they share, and the few things, it's very Star Wars. It was a very deep conversation, but each of them only had like 10 lines to each other, but it felt like it was a really long, in-depth, big thing. But it was a few phrases, a few words, and it was all shared emotion. But we could infer so much, we could understand so much of these characters just from that interaction there. So I mean, just War Between Worlds in general, I think is used perfectly in this show.
I was worried about the world between worlds, I'll be honest, because I don't love it as a concept. I didn't love it in Rebels. And the thing that really that always sort of rubbed me the wrong way about it was those doors to like other moments in time. And I get their purpose. I get what they are. I know they're not supposed to be time travel, but they feel very time travel adjacent, very time travel-y. And I don't like the idea of, Star Wars opening up the possibility of like changing the past. I feel like the past is the past. The story is set. The story is told. I don't want to introduce that element into Star Wars. I don't want to undo things. I don't want to have multiple timelines, unless it's in sort of like a one-off sort of thing, like if they actually did the Star Wars What If that people have long wished for. Like that I'm okay with. Infinities I'm okay with, but within the main storyline, I don't want anything to do with that. And so I liked how in this they didn't even address that. They just left that wasn't presented as any sort of even remote possibility. Everything was, here is Anakin and Ahsoka. It was like they were going into their memories. It was more like that thing in Harry Potter where you can like go into your memories and watch them again, and also like have a conversation with somebody that is kind of separate from the memory itself. So I really liked that way of including the world between worlds. And it just looked really cool in this. I think I mentioned this last week. It looks so much better in live action than it did in animation. That there's just the blue of the stars and everything, and the way the bridges were kind of the way it looked in live action was way. It was
like liquidy
cooler.
on the steps.
Even the sound, even like the like kind of sound is so cool.
Yeah.
I think to your point, I think Filoni understands the power I think he understands what he created with the World Between Worlds. I think everyone like after those episodes of Rebels are being like, "You put time travel in Star Wars? Do you really?" I think Filoni was like, "Yes, guys, I know what I did here. I realize the power that the World Between Worlds has. I'm not going to misuse it." And I like this episode. Not only just ignores all of that, ignores the time travel element of it, and all we don't hear. It's left completely ambiguous. And I think Hayden Christensen in the recent interview was just like, yeah, it's like the idea of like you don't get a solid answer of, is this Anakin? Is she talking to Anakin? Is this a Force ghost Anakin? Is this a memory? Is this a vision? It's not explicitly said, and we're also not explicitly said like this is the World Between Worlds. Ahsoka, this could be just a memory. She's been to the World Between Worlds. Maybe this is just her manifesting this in her mind of this thing. We see afterwards that she was apparently in the water all this time. Or was she, though? And so, that's the whole thing with it. I think ultimately it's left ambiguous. And to anyone that hasn't watched Rebels, which is probably the majority of the audience that's watching this, they're just gonna be like, "Oh, look, cool dream world, I guess." Like they're not looking at, "Oh, it's the World Between Worlds." They might Google it later, but they're not getting that. So I think they did it well enough to like, it's there for the people that watched Rebels, but it's not going to trip anybody up. Anybody that didn't watch Rebels isn't going to even think twice about it.
Yeah. It's just the setting for the episode. It's a perfect sort of Easter egg in my mind, where it's like it means something if you know what it is, and if you're interested in knowing more, there's definitely you can find out more, and there's a lot more to know about it, but it isn't relying on some of the gimmicks that seemed like they were possible from those Rebels episodes. But Hannah, you mentioned the back and forth between Ahsoka and Anakin. This is something I think everybody has wanted to see for a long time.
God, yeah.
It's the Ahsoka Anakin reunion post Return of the Jedi, post Clone Wars, post everything that these characters have been through, both together and apart. Hannah, why don't you take it? What did you think of this back and forth that they have? Did it actually live up to what we hoped we might see?
You know what? I think it actually went in a direction that I didn't quite expect, in terms of like, I think maybe in my own experience, I anticipated them to be like, oh, like, where have you been? I've been here. Oh, wow. Where have you been? Like, for it to be quite literal, for them to just like
friends see each other at a train station after years apart. Yeah. Oh, where are you going? I'm going this way.
Where are you working now? Oh, wow.
Oh, really? Oh, they have jobs in the afterlife. Interesting. Okay.
But like, in all honesty, I thought it was going to be quite literal, of just like, them just talking about Jedi. But of course what we got was really interesting in terms of like, it was still working. Like Anakin is still like, you have more to learn. Here's what you need to know in your next step of your journey. Like, it was straight back into the master apprentice time for a lesson. It was straight back into that, which I really, really loved. I love that energy. And I think it put, for me at least, it put me kind of in the right perspective of seeing their dynamic. Talk about Rosario looking like Ahsoka, live action Ahsoka. I think people are still getting used to live action Ahsoka, me included. I love Rosario so much as Ahsoka. I don't really have any complaints, but it's still getting used to. And it's like the dynamic in that conversation really helped put me into that scene and that connection that they were sharing with this dialogue, which I really, really love. I think it was really well written. So I think it was perfect that we went straight into a lesson. There wasn't much chit chat. It was just like, it's been a while. Okay, did you learn this yet? Like, it was so good. I was just straight into it. Let's learn.
They kind of fall back into their old rhythm, their old roles, their old sort of their old dynamic. It's almost like, even though they've both been through so much and they've both grown so much as characters since they last saw each other first in Siege of Mandalore, and then the Malachor episodes, Twilight of the Apprentice. Right. Like it's been so long since they've seen each other that they almost just kind of don't know how to be any other way with each other. They just fall back into master and apprentice. Now that Anakin is back to being Anakin again, he's not Vader. He's not threatening her. It's just they're back into their old rhythms and their old routines. And I think, Ahsoka's a little bit resistant to it at first. She's sort of like, when he's like, I have a lesson for you, she's like, what are you talking about? But still they quickly fall back into it. Ben, what'd you think of this scene?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful scene. I think it's an adjustment. It's an adjustment as a Clone Wars fan. It's hearing Hayden Christensen say snips, and then hearing Rosario kind of, I think, definitely.
I so wanted her to call him Sky Guy. I so badly wanted a Sky Guy. I just one. I just wanted one.
I don't think she's called him Sky Guy since like season 1.
I know, but
so many years.
If we could get a Sky Guy, could we have gotten R2 in one of the flashbacks and gotten an R2-y? Couldn't we have gotten an R2-y? Just something. Something. One of them.
Yeah. But I mean, it was great that I think they held back on a lot. I think there could have been a Sky Guy in there. There could have been a lot of other things. But I felt when I think this is maybe in the previous episode where she kind of he says snips, and then she says master, the kind of drawing back into that like Padawan mindset of just oh, master, what is going on? And then you get that great dialogue, and I think it's a wonderfully acted scene, and it's one that I think it doesn't take you long. I will say it's an adjustment. It doesn't take you long to kind of fill in, okay, I'm buying both these characters. I've never seen either of these characters. I've seen Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. I've seen Hayden Christensen as Anakin, but putting them together is real weird, but also it's great. And I would love to see more of this, obviously. But and then you get further on down the line with them. I do hope we get this more done. I think it would be better to cement those two characters together if we got more with them. With us Force ghosts and everything on Peridium, maybe.
Yeah, so this is something we're going to come on to in a future episode. But I think there's something that could have been done very, very, very easily to do exactly what you're talking about, Ben, that would have smoothed over whatever small amounts of awkwardness there was in this episode and seeing this live action versions of these characters interacting for the first time. Because you're right, these are characters we've seen interact a lot, but never like this. And I think there's one thing they didn't do, and I have a theory about why they didn't do it, but we'll come on to that during next week's episode. What do we think of this lesson that Anakin has for Ahsoka? Live or die. It's very straightforward, very Anakin Skywalker, but that's the lesson. What do we think?
Yeah, it is this thing where I think there's a lot of talk about the Jedis and their role in the war and all this kind of stuff, and how should you fight or should you not fight, and all this type of stuff. I think it outlines just like the lack of choice Ahsoka has had through a lot of her life. She didn't choose to go to war. She's literally just a child soldier drafted into war, and he's like, oh, this is just part of your training, going out and killing people and fighting on a battlefield. Like, this is just part of your training. Like, Anakin's just so flippant about it. It is really dark, and I'm like, we'll get to it, but like the later scenes of like Ariana Greenblatt, who is a very young person, seeing her on a battlefield just like hones in on just like how messed up it was to throw a Padawan on the battlefield. Like, it was hard to say that in animation, but like it really was messed up what happened in the Clone Wars and what so many Padawans went through. But I like the idea that like in the past, it was just like, you're in this battlefield. If you don't want to fight, you're going to die. You have to fight. And then in this instance, it's like, you have to fight. And then overall in Ahsoka's journey, it's like, you will die and you will fail if you don't keep fighting. You don't really have a choice in the matter. You know, that there, it is great when you choose not to fight, when you can choose not to fight, but sometimes you don't have a choice.
Yeah. Hannah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, was the question, what's the lesson? That was the
Or
question.
what do you think of the lesson?
Oh, what do I think of the lesson? Yeah. Live or die. Yeah, I take that as it wasn't Anakin threatening her. That it's like I'm gonna kill you or not. Like it wasn't specifically Anakin saying I want to do this. It was him putting the challenge to her, saying you have to. I mean, there's so many layers to it. I don't know how to, like, but in summation, like you have to accept your past and embrace your future, and you cannot fear yourself. You can't, because I think a lot of the thing is that she doesn't want to be Anakin, and the regret and the guilt and the, oh my God, he's this horrible thing and I was the pattern, like all these things. I think it was, if you don't let that go, if you do not give that up, you will die physically, metaphorically. Like you will not grow, you will not thrive, you will not like kind of just soulfully live anymore. So I think that's what he was getting to. I don't think it, and I did find it funny on the social media side of things. People got really like, oh my God, Anakin wants to kill her again. Oh my God. It's like, I know, they know. He's like this, it's the lesson. It's the damn lesson. God.
Yeah.
I found that very funny. But yes, and you know, to Ben's point, I think each of the stages of flashbacks was an element of that, of almost kind of reliving the trauma and showing it again. And you could see the part, each point she was like, why am I here? What's happening? And it's all about, be real with yourself. Like you've gone through this thing. You could sit in the misery of yourself and regret and horrible whatever, or you know, you accept that this has been your life, and you choose to live. You choose to still do good and pursue good and to grow. So that's what I take of it.
This is Jedi therapy.
It feels like it, yeah.
It's kind of riffing on the idea of do or do not. There is no try, because at the end of the day, that's the same. It's basically the same lesson, right? Because in Empire, you know, Luke, you know, goes to lift the X-wing out of the swamp, and because he's not fully committed to doing it in his mind, he's not committed to his beliefs in his mind, he fails. And then Yoda goes and does it and says, and Luke looks at him and goes, I don't believe it. And Yoda says, that is why you fail. And so like this idea of do or do not is sometimes you can't just think, oh, I'll give it a try, but it probably won't work. You have to go in there thinking, I'm going to do this thing and it's going to work. You have to have, for lack of a better term, a winner's mentality about this. Like you have to go in there, you know, with the commitment to doing something. And I've liked how like subsequent Star Wars, especially recently, especially Andor, kind of played with the idea of what does it mean to try, right? Because Nemec's manifesto is all about the importance of trying, which again is the same lesson, right? It's the same lesson. It's commit. It's commit to doing what you're going to do, regardless of the outcome. You may fail, it may not succeed, but it's better to go down trying than to not try at all. And then in this, it's live or die. It's boiling it down to its sort of most basic level of, are you going to, you know, commit to living, commit to doing what it takes in your life to, you know, accomplish whatever your version of accomplishing something great is. And that maybe that's different for every single person out there. Or you're just going to sit back and go, what can I do? Because then you're dying. Maybe not literally, but certainly metaphorically. So it all comes down to this idea of, are you going to commit to what you're doing? And Ahsoka has had kind of commitment issues through these episodes. She couldn't train Sabine. She couldn't see Sabine's training. It's very telling in that first episode. She says, I walked away from Sabine. She didn't see that through to the end. She may have had this idea of like, I can train someone who isn't a traditional Jedi candidate to be a Jedi, but she wouldn't commit to seeing it through. And she let that idea die. that's kind of what she's doing with Thrawn too. You know, she's so caught up in her ways and thinking that she if she can't stop them from getting the map, then she's sort of like, what's even the point? What, like, I'm gonna fall off this cliff and drown in this ocean here.
Right.
It all comes down to essentially do or do not. There is no try. Are you going to go out there and do it, or are you going to kind of go, I'll see, I'll kind of half-ass it out there, but I'm not going to see it through. So yeah, at the end of the day, all of these lessons, Anakin's live or die, Yoda's do or do not, there is no try, Nemec's just try. At the end of the day, just try. It's all about committing to doing something. It's all about your mindset going into it. And yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was brilliant. You guys have heard me bang on about good Star Wars lessons. This is a good Star Wars lesson because it's just a good lesson for life. It doesn't have anything to do with the Force or the Jedi or anything. It's just a good lesson for life. Best Jedi advice is good life advice.
Well, yeah, and you know, commitment is a running theme through this whole thing. With Ahsoka, it's, you know, her commitment to living, and metaphorically, theoretically, however you want to put it, in this dream sequence. But then you have the commitment to training Sabine, and her lack of commitment to saying, look, I'm afraid to train her because she's got a lot of stuff going on. Maybe it reminds me of my master, because my master went through a lot, Sabine went through a lot, and I don't want to create things. That's the same reason why she didn't want to train Grogu. She has a lack of commitment. She has this fear of commitment to a Padawan or an apprentice. And then you take that and then you apply all this to Sabine. Sabine, I love the line of Sabine's kind of like, you never wanted me back, you know, and she's trying to egg on Huang, and Huang's like, did you ever express if you wanted to come back? I don't think you did. I don't think you actually wanted to come back. You didn't actually say that. And she's like, okay, I remember why. I don't remember why you're annoying. So like, that's the whole thing of like, and Sabine, and then you have the whole thing about, you know, the Force powers and Sabine being able to harness the Force due to her commitment. Like it relies on your focus, your commitment to, I'm going to do this. You can either be just a normal person, or you're going to say, I'm going to commit 100% to this and try to do this. And that's what Sabine does, you know, in the last episode. And now, you know, we're seeing it, you know, obviously she doesn't show up in this episode, but it's all through this. All those themes just kind of run through all these episodes, which is great.
It's that quote from George that we talked a bit about last week, where, you know, anyone can tap into the Force. It's only the Jedi that take the time to do it. And that's sort of, that's what goes on throughout this series, is that you can accomplish great things if you commit to it, if you take the time to do what needs to be done. And even in the flashbacks, right? Like Ben, you're saying, Ahsoka's talking about Ahsoka's fears and her unwillingness to train anybody or to see their training through. She even vocalizes it. She says, like, is this what I'm going to pass down to my apprentice, this legacy of death and destruction, which is what Balin was saying to her last week? Is that all she has to pass on? Like, that's her great fear. And, you know, Anakin in this episode is trying to get her to look past it, to see past her fear, and understand that the only way, you know, there's no going around it with the fear. You got to go through it. You got to face it. You got to confront it. Live or die. So good. Love a good Star Wars lesson. Love a good Star Wars lesson. Let's talk about the flashbacks proper. We have three.
That's a spicy Star Wars lesson. Yes. Sorry.
Sorry. What in the hell?
That was again, Ben. Ever since we've come back, Ben's just been doing character work on the show. He's been trying out new voices, new accents.
That's what he was doing for 3 months.
It's all just pent up. It's all pent up. It's just me. Just every time the camera turns on, it just explodes.
For your characters.
Ben's been walking around the barbecue restaurant going, "Hey, an Ahsoka scene between Anakin and Ahsoka. Live or die."
Oh.
I'm an angry old man talking about Ahsoka. That's just been Ben for 3 months. It's incredible. Let's talk about these Clone Wars flashbacks. We had Teth, Ryloth, and Mandalore. Again, they don't hit you over the head with them in terms of like where this is, what's going on, that sort of thing. I did love how they just sort of color coded it. That like when she drops into the past, it's purple, like Teth was purple. And so if you know, you get where they are, you get what's going on, and they don't feel the need to explain it even more to say like, oh, look, we've got this is our first battle. It was the Battle of Teth when we were, saving Jabba the Hutt's son. It's just, this was one of our first battles. It's pink. It's purple. Those of you that know, you know what it is. I thought that was really, really well done. I also liked the way they, obviously there's some budget constraints going on here. This isn't Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, where you have these sprawling Clone Wars battles. They kept it very contained. But I kind of liked that. I thought that was good storytelling. They kept the focus on Anakin and Ahsoka. There was just enough going on around them that you knew it was the Clone Wars, but you weren't getting swept up in the visual spectacle. You were keeping the focus on Ahsoka and Anakin.
One thing I actually really enjoyed, and because I agree with you in terms of the setting. Oh, cool! Bit of imagery. Oh, lovely. The setting of this is, I kind of had that thought afterwards. I was like, I wonder if it's because they didn't have a cracking budget to do this elaborate, like jungle, weird, random planets. But I do have to say, I believe from what I've learned from the behind the scenes photos, this isn't even the volume though.
Yeah.
This is green screen, like it's set and green screen, which because I kind of had that prediction thinking about it. I'm going, oh, this doesn't actually look like volume watching it. And then kind of having that confirmed, I was like, I think I actually like this better. Even though I know I'm like, this is a really big green screen. That's more Star Warsy to me. You know what I mean?
It was in Hayden's contract. He's like, if I'm going to come back, I want it to feel like the old days. Please give me entire rooms of green screen. Yeah.
It's not Star Wars unless it's green.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hayden's the opposite of all those guys in the Force Awakens documentaries. They're like, you want to be in a real desert, an actual desert. Hayden's like, I want green screen and nothing else, or I'm in my trailer and you can come and get me when you put up the green screen.
What? Go outside to film something? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
It's crazy out there.
It's like, I got stung by a bee the one day I filmed outdoors with Natalie Portman. Never again.
Oh, I love it. Wait, did he actually? Was that a thing?
No, I just made that up.
Oh, okay. Wow, BTS.
Really?
Oh, I love it.
Deep cuts.
But yeah, I love that effect. I love the effect. I really don't mind that it's like this feels like a set because I actually I really love that this feels like a prequel green screen big set. It feels like that. It feels like, the Geonosian Arena where it's like these are all CGI little bugs, but it's Star Wars and it's believable and it's all there.
Yeah, there's great scope when they do the green screen. And as tremendous as the volume can be, sometimes it does feel small and it does feel like you're going to walk into the wall if you take another step. It's like it's like in the Wizard of Oz back in the day where like if they took one more step, they'd hit a matte painting that was just the future of Oz. Like the volume feels that way sometimes. Like if you took one more step, you'd walk smack into one of those screens. Especially in the later seasons, like season 3 of Mando and Book of Boba, like that's when you really feel the volume starts to feel a little bit claustrophobic.
Yeah, I think if it had been like fully realized, it would have been that we would have having a completely different conversation. It'd be like, oh, that ATTE doesn't look quite realistic enough to me. But like, no, it keeps the focus. And I did kind of went through the same thing. I'm just like, yeah, I felt that like, okay, this is budget constraints. They can't actually do the Battle of Teth. They can't have actually ATTEs going up the side of a cliff. I understand they can't do that. But then you kind of just take a step back and go like, no, this actually works. This is good. This is good because it's supposed to be a dream. And if you were like, do you remember every detail of your dreams? Like
yes.
You're mainly just focused on, okay, here and the people around me. And like, it's just giving you the absolute best details of what's going on here. And like you said, it's ultimately any Clone Wars fans going like, "Oh my God, it's a Battle of Death! It's a Siege of Mandalore!" And then everyone else is going like, "Okay, all right. Is that a stormtrooper?"
You're like, that's the first. If you don't know, you're just like, oh, that's the first battle. Okay, that's cool. Tell me more. Do go on. Well, and I like that the second one is Ryloth, and
Right.
you know, because again, as Clone Wars fans, we think about the Battle of Ryloth, we think about Ahsoka's failing in the space battle, but I like that they just sort of they still portrayed that feeling that she has of like, you know, my decisions get people killed, my mistakes cost lives, and they took that feeling and they just sort of transplanted it onto the ground so that you continue to have these Clone Wars flashbacks. You know, sorry, go ahead, Ben. Jump in.
No. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking aloud here. But I do like that. Like they kind of took the essence of that scene, because I went back and watched that scene. I was like, did they actually like take that scene and kind of repurpose it? No, it's different dialogue, it's different everything, but the essence of it is still there. And I like the idea of just like, maybe this happened after, because they actually aren't, Anakin and Ahsoka like are kind of absent for like the rest of the Ryloth arc. My headcanon is like this happened like during the Ryloth arc, like, but they were off doing stuff like before they showed up in one of my favorite episodes. Anyway, yeah, it's I think that headcanoning and kind of putting it in there, I think is great. And having this great conversation between the two of them. Which is kind of portrays their dynamic pretty well. For anyone, obviously, we're very familiar with that. If you watch Clone Wars, you know all about this. But if you're not, then it's a great little scene of just like, this was Anakin and Ahsoka. This was their dynamic. This is what they were going with. And I think that's what another thing about this episode is the fact that it is, if you're coming into this and you're like, I've never seen Clone Wars, and I've heard that Ahsoka is the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker. What the heck is happening? And they're kind of doing what we did in 2008, which is like, Anakin had a Padawan? What? Like, this is the episode they can kind of educate themselves and go like, okay, that's what that was all about.
Mm-hmm. And it shows, it gives Hayden an opportunity to be that charismatic Anakin who was sort of the hero of the Clone Wars that we really never get to see in the prequels, right? In Attack the Clones, he's still going through his emo phase. And in Revenge of the Sith, we get little glimpses of it with Obi-Wan, but the rest of the movie is his fall to the dark side. You never get to see him as the great hero, the one that everybody sort of imagined. You get that in the animation, in the cartoons, but in this episode, you get to see him like, you know, he's out there, he's making jokes, he's keeping spirits light, he's trying to get everybody to feel as best as they can while they're literally in the middle of hell fighting this war. And so you get to see that version of Anakin. I loved seeing Hayden get to portray that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Let's and then of course there's perhaps the greatest moment in all of the series when Ahsoka's watching him walk away. He's walking with his lightsaber, and it flashes to Vader for just a second. It's like, oh,
so cool.
That's
so cool.
So good.
That's some good Star Wars.
Then we get to
really brings out the Italian in me when I see Darth Vader Anakin turn into Darth Vader.
Yeah, apparently. Then we get to the Siege of Mandalore, which, can I just say that there's one shot in this that I'm not convinced isn't a Clone Wars shot. The Mandalorian, I swear that's just a Clone Wars shot. That's just a Clone Wars shot. No, it's good. What do you mean it's not good? It's good. It's just
not for live action. It's not good. I'm sorry. He moves way too high. He's like bouncy. He's like appears in the shot, and you're like, this like a rubber Mando. Like, what is this?
So good.
But this is where things kind of come to a head for Ahsoka and Anakin in these flashbacks. And it sort of comes down to this exchange that they have about where Anakin's kind of watching this battle play out. He's like, I don't remember this. I didn't see it. I didn't live this. But he's sort of saying like, but I can see you are a warrior now. This is everything that I trained you to be. You are in this battle, which of course, as people who watch the Clone Wars and the Siege of Mandalore, we know that.
Siege of Mandalore?
Yeah,
wow.
There it is.
Really?
We've seen that. We've lived that. And this is where Ahsoka finally confronts Anakin about what she's afraid of. She's like, if I'm part of your legacy, that's one of death and war. And Anakin has this great line. He says, "You're more than that because I'm more than that."
Mm.
And then she finally hits him with the, but you became Darth Vader of it all.
Yes.
And this
rightfully so. Fair question. Fair question.
And this was the part of the episode that threw me for a little bit of a loop, because Anakin's reply to it at first really baffled me, because he goes, "Oh, that's what this is about. This is about. So that's what this is about." And I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and go, "Of course! Of course that's what this is about! What the fuck did you think this was about? Anybody who ever existed with you, who ever lived at any point with you, if they are struggling with something that has to do, it's about this, it's about the black mass subjugating the galaxy thing. That's what this is about. Of course that's what this is about. It's not about anything else. Of course, there's nothing else it could be about." Now I'll get on to what I eventually came to realize about that moment in a little bit. But what did you guys think of the way things turned for Anakin? Hannah, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah. I thought it was bizarre as well. I kind of got that catch that everyone else felt, being like, wait, what? Why? Whoa. But I don't think it was until like at the end, like with the whole sequence finished, where I was kind of like, oh, okay, he wasn't actually being like, I'm deciding to kill you now. It's like this whole lesson thing. But as it was happening, I was deep into confusion. I was like, what is happening? But again, I think, I mean, it was fast. It was interesting, and seeing them fight was like really cool. And I actually really enjoyed the choreography like that they had here, and then back on the bridge was really interesting, and the dialogue in between it, very prequel-esque, but very confused. I was deeply confused this whole thing, and then at the end I was like, okay, cool.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
Ben?
Yeah, I have no idea what my initial reaction to this episode. I think every time I watch something for the first time, it's just a blurb, just like, oh my god, or me just, going, that's a space. No, I'm not gonna do it again. I'm not gonna do it again. I'm stopping. This is it. It's over. So I don't remember what I first saw, but I think I definitely just seeing that, I think. Like the idea that Anakin, even though it is the biggest elephant in the room, Darth frickin' Vader, biggest elephant in the room when it comes to the legacy of Anakin and really anybody connected to him, he would be like, "What do you want to bring that up? Like, why would you? What is your problem? Like, I'm trying to get over that. Come on, keep bringing up the past. Let's move forward." I like that, and just like. That whole idea. And again, we don't know who this is truly that Ahsoka is talking to. Is this a figment of her imagination? Is this Anakin's Force ghost? Is this actually, is this a memory? What is this? I love the imagery, and we've got it on screen. Just this idea of like seeing Vader in full force, like what he would have been without the suit, I think is just an amazing imagery to see with a lightsaber. And the red eyes, and and seeing Hayden pour it on. That shot right there, man. It's just this whole thing. And I love that Hayden got to do his thing, but ultimately, it is about Ahsoka dealing with this. Ahsoka, this has rocked her world forever, and this is her finally coming to terms with it and understanding that. I love there's a scene later in the show, and she's like, "Oh, he was a good master," and that's her finally kind of wrestling this away and understanding that, like, yes, he was a really bad guy, and it's not that Anakin was one person and Vader was another person. Not that BS. I'm sorry, it kind of it gets muddy in there. They were the same person. Anakin did all those things. He was a horrible person, but also he was a good person. And you kind of have to take the good with the bad and ultimately move forward, and understanding that she is not him. She is him, but she's not. And, you know, she has to deal with this and face it literally fight her demons.
So Ben, you said something there that I found very interesting in the discussion around this episode of who is it really that Ahsoka is talking to? And I think part of the reason that line stood out to me as so odd, so that's what this is about line stood out to me as so odd, is because to me, there's no question. She's talking to Anakin. That is Anakin Skywalker. That is, you know, his essence, his ghost, whatever you want to call it. That's what it is. And I always assumed that when Vader was redeemed, when Anakin came back, he had sort of a peace and understanding with what he had done. He didn't try and justify it. He didn't try and excuse it, but he was sort of at peace with it. And the way Hayden portrays that scene, and he's like, so that's what this is about. He gets like tense. It's like he's embarrassed by it. Understandable. I think we all would be. But he's sort of embarrassed by it. And it made me realize, you know, that interpretation I had previously comes from the ending of Return of the Jedi. At the end of Return of the Jedi, and then the end of Return of the Jedi is basically, it's the end of a fairy tale. The good guys have come back. The good guys have won. Anakin Skywalker's redeemed. He's a Force ghost. He's chilling there with Obi-Wan and Yoda. Like everything is awesome. Everything is good. But if the story's to continue, then there has to be more to it. And I think even in death, even having achieved, you know, his Force ghost status, Anakin is still struggling with his own legacy, with what he did, what he became, everything he was during his lifetime. And, you know, because he was able to work through that with Luke and come back from the dark, come back to the light. And I almost feel like he thinks in his mind, he did it that one time. That should be enough. He was able to come back. That should be enough for everybody who knew him to go, you know what? He had his moments, but at the end of the day, he's a good guy, and we can trust what he did and what he's saying now. And what Ahsoka's saying to him is, no, I can't. I know what happened. I saw what happened, and you were able to come back. Okay, but what if my apprentice goes down the same path as you did? What if I go down the same path as you do? And what if I can't come back the way you did? And so Anakin in this episode is kind of grappling with the fact that his actions, his legacy is still complicated. It still has consequences. And just because he was able to work through it with one person, with Luke, doesn't mean that everybody else is going to be at that same place right away. And, you know, I think he works through it with Ahsoka in this episode. There's still another person that I think he should have to deal with this with. Leia. Now that we've had this scene, I think the scene that next has to confront Anakin's legacy is Leia and Anakin. Because she, more than anybody else, only ever knew Darth Vader. Luke at least got a moment with Anakin at the end. Ahsoka had a whole upbringing, several years of a war, learning from Anakin. Leia only ever knew Vader. And I think for Vader, for Anakin to truly achieve that sort of, peace, moving beyond, that part of his legacy, or accepting that part of his legacy as who he is, as part of him, but not defining him. I think he has to have that conversation with Leia. And I know Dave Filoni said in that big interview that he considers, Anakin to be George's character, and George got the final word on him, yada, yada, yada. Okay, whatever. Fine, Dave. You don't want to tell that story. That's okay. But I want to see that story, because Anakin's legacy is complicated. And this episode shows just how complicated it can be. Even for someone who knew him at his best and knew that he came back, she still grapples with the Vader of it all and has to confront the Vader of it all in order to move on with her own life. And I feel like that's part of Leia's story. And honestly, it's part of Luke's story too, because, Luke may have helped save Anakin, but he's still afraid of the Skywalker legacy when he sees that raw strength in Ben Solo. That's why he considers doing what he does. And so it's part of Anakin's legacy. And I think it's interesting to me that even in death, the character still has to learn. It's interesting to me that there's more. I do think there is more to be told with Anakin Skywalker. And I wish the sequel trilogy had done it, but if they're not going to do it, I hope a show like Ahsoka or future stories set beyond the sequel trilogy or before the sequel trilogy, I hope that we're able to see that story told in some way, because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it brings up, this makes me think of an interesting conversation that I feel like just kind of comes and goes every so often, of the question, should we move on from the Skywalkers? Should we forget the Skywalkers now? They're done. We can't do anything else. But I mean, what we're talking about here, and even Anakin in this show, just, I get the whole, I want to see more things, either side of like this saga we know. There's still so much depth in these characters of Anakin, of Luke and Leia. There is still so much depth to explore with these characters, which makes an interesting thing of I could happily sit with the Skywalker name in shows and movies for many years to come still, to be honest. And like, I think, everything you said there, Tom. Whoa. Whoa.
Okay.
Hold on.
What?
Okay. All right.
Dom.
All right, Heather. All right. And Bill, the two of you.
Oh, this escalated so quickly. Wow. What the hell was I trying to say? Yeah, what you were saying about the story of everything and everyone, of Leia especially, there's like so much potential there.
Yeah, that's the thing with, like, I do like that idea, because, like, I was going into the sequel trilogy. I was just like, yes, okay, perfect timing. Of course they're going to have Mark Hamill and Hayden Christensen on scare. There's no way they would miss that opportunity in the sequel trilogy. That's just crazy talk. And here we are. So I've kind of made peace with that. And you could definitely, like, you can make the case that you could do more stuff with Luke. And I mean, definitely the precedent is set in the Mandoverse. We have actually both characters existing in this timeline. So, like, you could very easily see it cross over. But you can also make the argument that, like, that bridge has already been crossed. That piece has already been made. We don't really need that between those characters. It would be great to have Luke and Anakin have more dialogue, but also it isn't necessarily needed. But Leia is a completely different story. Completely. And it's something that I think George just kind of left out there, and I would love to see someone else, perhaps Filoni, come along and do that.
Well, and this is sort of part of the other half of the episode, but Leia is starting to be a presence in this story, in the Mandoverse. So
that's
possibility.
Okay, I have a thing about this. So we have this mention of Leia by Carson Teva, and up to this point, I would have said, okay, Leia's just not going to appear in the Mandoverse. She's just not going to be a part of this. We're going to hear about her maybe, but she's not going to be in it. And they're not going to do a weird CG thing, whatever else. They're not going to recast. They're just going to avoid her at all costs. Now that we had this thing, and then obviously what happens near the finale with 3PO, I feel like they're teasing. This is not a reference, it's a tease for Leia eventually showing up, and I think she will show up now. I think this is almost a confirmation of that.
I think all three of them are, and we've had Luke already twice. I think we'll have Leia, and I do think we'll have Han before all is said and done in the storyline. I just think it wouldn't make sense to do this big grand galactic scale storyline for them not to play some role in it. They don't have to be the main characters. Din Djarin and Ahsoka Tano, those are probably Sabine Wren. Those are probably the main characters, but Luke, Han, and Leia, they're going to be part of this, as is Chewbacca, I'm sure. But yeah, and just to echo your point, Hannah, I agree. I think there's so much more to be mined with the Skywalker family. I really, really think there is. And just between this and Obi-Wan Kenobi last year, I think it's showing that the potential is still there, that there's still so much fertile ground. And yeah, I do want them to do other stories. I want them to expand beyond that, but I want them to do both. I want to see the Acolyte and Andor and shows that jet off in other new and interesting directions. But I also want to see Ahsoka and Obi-Wan Kenobi that, give us another look at the stories we already know and make us think about them in different and new and interesting ways, which both of these shows, I think, have done phenomenally. So we go back to, they conclude Ahsoka finally chooses to live. Anakin is redeemed once again. Great bit of makeup, of editing, of shots from Dave Filoni and the crew, just to show Anakin literally just transitioning his face back from the dark side to the light. Really, really cool stuff. Let's talk about kind of the other half of the episode, and I want to talk about Jacen Syndulla. This is a character we haven't touched on a whole lot. He's been kind of there in the background for the story so far, but in this episode he finally comes into his own. We know that he is the son of Kanan Jarrus. It was alluded to in the Rebels epilogue that he was force sensitive in the way that a traditional Jedi is, and in this episode we get to actually see him tap into the Force. But not only that, he's following in Ahsoka's way of thinking, where he doesn't just tap into the Force himself, but he encourages Hera to do so. And because I don't think he thinks anything of it. Truly wonderful the mind of a child is. He's just like, I can hear the lightsabers, can't you? And Hera, being Hera, listens in, and she does hear them. I fully believe she does hear them.
Yeah, I do too.
What did we, Ben? Why don't you jump off on this? What did you think of Jacen Syndulla? I nearly said Jason Solo. That's a whole other kettle of fish. Of Jacen Syndulla in the series, and especially in this episode.
Yeah, I was skeptical when we had the little Lego minifig leak. And it's just like, oh, there's this kid, but they're not going to have the green hair. They're going to make him kind of normal. And I'm like, okay, he'll have a cameo, whatever else, that's fine. Then this episode comes along. I think it was a great way to, obviously a nod to Rebels fans, but also just, this great nod to, this is the future. Jacen is the future of the Jedi. And he really is powerful, and he does, like you said, he doesn't think anything of it. He's just there, and also maybe even helps his mom, unlock her Force potential, which I think is just so wonderful. Because it's in my humble opinion, Hera Syndulla is the best freaking pilot in the galaxy. Okay, she is. She outflew Darth Vader, who was the supposed best starfighter pilot in the galaxy. So I'm giving Hera the crown, at least until Poe shows up. This is. I think
you think Poe's better than Hera?
Well, look, there's different eras. There's different eras of. Look, Poe does some pretty incredible things too. I'm not going to pit them against each other. Don't make me do this.
Fight.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to fight. Oh man.
But anyway, I think they're both strong in the Force. I think Poe's using the Force and Hera's using the Force. They're doing amazing things.
Bill.
In their X-wings and Ghost or whatever else. I don't know the actor's name, but like Jacen, I want to see more of this kid. He's great, and they love that they did the green hair too, and they made it look great too. It's not ridiculous like it was in the Rebels. It's just great.
The meltdown over the minifigure, and people were like, "He doesn't have green hair. How can they not have green hair?" And then in the show, he's just got green hair. It was terrific. It was great. It was fantastic. Hannah, what did you think of Jacen?
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said there, Bill. I think he's a really cool character.
For the record, we're going
I
to settle this right now. Just wait. Just keep going. Keep talking. Keep talking.
Just keep going. Okay, great, cool. I'm scared. I'm scared for my life. Yeah, it's so good. I want a show of this kid 100%. I think I want to see a show where Ezra, or no, not a specific. This is the show, but just this element in somewhere where Ezra teaches Jason about the Force, about the Jedi. I think. I mean, this is kind of skipping ahead. Was this episode? I think it was the end of this episode where they have this little interaction with Ahsoka and Huang, and Jason's like, "Oh, you're awake," and then he's kind of got this kind of funny dialogue with Huang, being like, "Can you tell me about the lightsabers or whatever the hell?" Yes. I think they do that so well. They set it up so well for, I think, everyone to go, let's see more of this kid becoming a Jedi. And yeah, I loved him. So cute, so well played and acted.
It's so good. Yeah, it's anytime you do stuff with kids, when you have kid characters, you run a risk, especially in a show where everybody else is an adult, but he fit in just perfectly. And
yes,
yeah, that scene,
it wasn't cringe. I didn't find him cringe at all.
Yeah, that scene with Huyang where he's like, oh, can you train me to be a Jedi? And Huyang's like, no. He's like, do you know about lightsabers? Yes. Can you help me build one? No. So good. So good. David Tennant as Huyang was just fantastic in that sequence as well. Ben, are you ready for your fight? Is that what's going to happen? I feel like I'm about to lose control of the show.
So far, Hera is winning by 71% on Twitter.
Oh, we've got a new poll.
We got a poll.
It's been a while since we've done this.
We can do a poll in the live show. We could do a poll in the chat right now.
How?
I don't know how to do that. I know how to do Twitter. I don't know how to do that.
You boomers. My gosh.
Back in my day, we did polls on the Twitters.
Oh my
God! I just have to go on Twitter.
So if go on Twitter, or if you go on the,
maybe highly not recommended.
Okay.
Oh man, incredible! Just incredible. I gonna vote? Oh, this is a tough vote. This is a tough vote, but yeah, Hera's
definitely
dominating.
Not. How is this a tough vote? Like, Poe's good. He's skilled and he's really great in combat.
I'll put one on Threads for you guys who are woke. You guys know what the better social media service is.
On Threads, huh?
Threads. 7 votes. My God, who's just sitting there waiting to vote?
Oh yeah, and that's as of a couple of minutes ago. Yeah. What are we at now? It's currently with 63 votes. It's a pretty dominant response of Hera with 63.5% of the vote.
Not dominant enough.
I mean, Poe does like take out like 18 guys in one consecutive tracking shot. So like there is that. It does have that going for him. I'll give him that.
I remember that.
In The Force Awakens, but yeah, as we'll keep an eye on the poll as we continue through the episode. Let's talk a little bit about the New Republic presence in this episode. We have Carson Teva on the mission with Hera, and towards the end of the episode, they get a call from Mon Mothma, who is saying to them, "You know what? Like you guys are in some trouble here. You better get back. You have to call off this rogue mission of yours because I don't think I can protect you anymore." We talked a little bit about Mon Mothma last week and sort of her role as Chancellor of the Republic now, and how that sort of varies a little bit from her role in Andor, and what she represents. Hannah, I'm going to throw it to you. What do you think of Mon Mothma's presence in the series and kind of her role, not as an antagonist, because I don't think she's an antagonist, but sort of as an obstacle for the heroes, despite being on their side?
For sure. Well, Mon Mothma is a really interesting character because the book nerds, the paper canon legends, well, pun intended, know Mon Mothma's dealings with the New Republic quite well, and what she's been up to. It didn't go quite as planned. She wasn't actually that like phenomenal at it in the end, and like there's all these kind of in-depth stories that have happened in books. But we've had this random Mon Mothma supremacy in the visual TV shows of recent days, which I don't think
Mon
anyone saw
Mothma
coming.
era is here. It's here to stay.
Yes, forget Skywalker saga. I want the Mon Mothma freaking what's her M word?
Matriarchy.
Matriarchy. Oh, whatever. So I think we kind of have to bridge that. Book people know we're like, oh, it didn't end great. There's kind of a lot happened. But visual people, like, especially in the last thing we saw of her in Andor being like this great, like, we got to save everyone, kill the Empire. This is an interesting bridge or just a little window of time where we see and what you kind of previously explained and described of like she's kind of like the hey, you can't do this anymore. Like she's kind of this naysayer for our protagonists, which is rough, which is hard.
She's like the cool teacher where like she doesn't want to like she's not out to get you. She wants you to succeed. I think she at her core she wants Hera and Carson to succeed in this mission. But she's also like, you're breaking the rules. I'm gonna have to give you detention.
It's like yes.
She's also
exactly.
she's kind of making some points there. She's like, well, do you have some evidence? And Hera's like, no. He's like, did you have this? You have that? He's like, no. Like, no, like you got to give me something, Hera. Come on. I'm trying to stick up for you, but you're not giving me anything.
Yeah. She's sort of like, my hands are tied. And she does have to answer to, Senator Ziono and all of those other guys on the, in the Senate and the Oversight Committee. It's again, to use the teacher metaphor, she does have to answer to the school board and the principal. I guess she's kind of the principal, but you know what I mean. There are other people she has to answer to at this point. So it's interesting to see her, especially comparing that to where she is in Andor, where she is just in full rebel mode. And maybe she's trying to restrain Luthen and some of his more extreme impulses, but at the end of the day, she's out there breaking the rules. She's out there breaking the law. She's getting into bed with gangsters because she needs to move her money around in a way that can't be tracked. Like this is, getting.
Wait, sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, there's a poor choice of metaphor. Getting
into bed with gangsters.
Hey, we haven't seen season 2 yet. So
yeah, as soon as I said it, I'm like, that was not the metaphor to use. Not a good one. Not a good one.
Anything for the rebellion, eh?
Don't mean it literally. It's a figure of speech, figuratively. She's tying her wagon to gangsters. Anyways.
There's so many jokes I can make right now. I'm just gonna hold off.
I know, right?
Anyways, Hera's leading the poll 71.4% at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Poe languishing at 28.6% as we currently roll through this. All right, let's talk about sort of the ending of the episode, Ahsoka and the Purrgil. Ahsoka, being saved by the New Republic pilot. She comes out. She's finally Ahsoka the White, which is what we've all been sort of anticipating since we saw that Rebels epilogue way back when. And finally, again, this is one of those things where, like, as the audience, I think we all knew this was coming. It's sort of like we've been waiting for the characters to catch up with what we've all figured out a long time ago, which is the way to get to Ezra, the way to get to Thrawn is the same way they got there, the Purrgil. But Ben, I'll throw this to you. What did you think of the scene itself where Ahsoka made the realization and made a new friend for her journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful scene, absolutely gorgeous, and so, as I said, emotional, because it gets me emotional every time I watch it, and just a great way to end this episode, I think, because I think a lot of the flashbacks was dark and was very much in this dark place, literally and figuratively, and Ahsoka facing her demons or demon, Darth Vader, and going through this really emotional thing, and then coming out the other side and having this very hopeful outlook and having this very natural way, a just crazy way. And I love throughout the whole episode we have Carson Teva trying as he might to understand all this Jedi nonsense, still failing. And just like, I love the like, I was like, okay, whatever. Like he's just trying to, he's trying to be the voice of reason. Like, we're gonna run out of fuel here. Come on, we gotta stop this. We've gone over this like 6 times. And then I love the end of like, yeah, okay, I'll tell you what's going on, but you're not gonna believe me.
Okay.
And
can I put my hands up as a hypocrite here?
Go ahead.
Because I hate with a passion the scene at the beginning of The Last Jedi when Poe Dameron is stalling with General Hux.
Oh, we know that.
I hate that scene. I hate that scene with a passion. But I love this scene. I love Carson Teva doing basically the same thing, just without a Yo Mama joke. But I always thought it was really funny the way he was stalling. He was like, I can't hear you. Okay, I can't tell you because it's classified. No, it's classified. You want the whole story? All right, let me start at the beginning. From the dawn of time. Like it was
like really committed.
It was so good. I thought it was really, really funny. And I know that makes me a hypocrite, but whatever. At least you guys already know that. So yeah, great scene. Hannah, what do you think of this scene?
Well done. Well, bloody done. I don't know if I feel like I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but one of my biggest flexes and achievements I've ever completed in my life was successfully predicting that they were going to travel at some point in this show, and probably when they need to get to the other galaxy inside the whale. I predicted that, and it freaking happened like that. I'm so stoked that happened. Freaking Jonah and the whale. But yeah, this scene's fantastic. And just all like you mentioned this earlier as well, Dom, that like even with the amazing Clone Wars stuff that we've already talked about, like these sequences here were like just as impressive and just as like amazing and like, oh my god, what's happening? This is really dramatic. The music, I'm like, wow. It was just of a wow sort of scenes.
And it also, I think it sells like the awe-inspiring nature of like you see all these whales, and then we got this great image on the screen of like that, like when you're in the world between worlds, it's closed in, it's foggy, you can't see very well. Then you're opened up and you're at the sky, you can see for miles, you can see everything. That's that great, it's this wonderful like breath of fresh air, quite literally, of like now the world is opening up, and now Ahsoka's vision is clear now.
Yeah, it's terrific, and as you guys mentioned, the music is just incredible.
Can't even say enough. The Kyners, Mike. I think, oh my god, like some of the most amazing Star Wars music I think we've ever gotten was in this show, and yeah, it's phenomenal. Because like
that was the entirety of your Spotify Wrapped, wasn't it, Ben? It was just
actually weirdly I stopped using Spotify like right before this show came on, so I don't have much of that in there. But yeah, I'm just like, I gotta go back and listen to that. I go back and listen to that on repeat now. Thanks.
That'll be
next
Spotify. Year. That'll be next year. Terrific. Well, we've covered a lot in this episode. There's been a lot that's gone on. We've talked about a whole bunch of things, but it's about that time. You know it. You love it. Or do you? I don't know if you do or not. But it's time once again for Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. So Ben, we've covered a lot of connections already. We've covered a lot of them. So I think you can skip things like what planets they're on, what Clone Wars episodes we're calling back. We've covered all of that stuff. I intentionally worked it into the discussion so that you wouldn't be able to drag this thing out. with these references that
Oh,
anyone
come
who's
on,
paying
I got a
attention
note up
should
here
not.
about the Battle of Teth and the Battle of Ryla. Come on, you're gonna steal this from me, man? Come on.
Yes, I am.
Dang.
All right, take it away. Take it away.
Any
All
boy.
right. Well, lucky for you, I already edited that out of my notes. So, so for Shadow Warrior and things, I've only got 2 connections. Okay, 2. One I love, and both of these have actually been
this episode. There were none.
Yeah, well,
none whatsoever.
There was 2 connections that maybe somebody didn't catch, like one person out there didn't catch, and I'm going to talk about it. So, and this has already been covered. If you pay attention to our social media, these have both been out there. I love that Anakin says, "Gotta keep up," which is direct callback to the Clone Wars movie. I'm like, you're ripping dialogue right out of the movie. You're speaking my language, Filoni. I love it. I love it. And then this is a weird one. I can't take credit for this one. This was all over social media back when it actually aired. So the bit where Ahsoka sinks into the water, that pretty much verbatim is taken directly from a Topps trading card, a digital trading card that was released in the Star Wars Card Trader app back in 2016 by Dave Filoni, artwork, and there's a whole collection of these you could, I guess, maybe feasibly collect digitally. I don't know if they were ever printed. But it's an amazing thing. Basically, it's the same thing. I think it was supposed to be maybe on Malachor, but it clearly influenced Filoni, and it's great. I wish we had you can obviously just go to our socials. Like I literally posted the other day. It's all over the place. And that's it for Shadow Warrior.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
nice.
Yeah.
What's that?
Keep going.
Okay. I got a couple others. Okay. Because I got some unfinished business with last week's episode.
Oh my God.
And you look, I didn't have my notes last week. Now I have my notes, and y'all strap in. So from from Time to Fly and Fallen Jedi, we're gonna go back to the captions for the training sabers in the first episode are referred to as Boken sabers. Mm-hmm. This is actually a type of Japanese sword, and basically just a wooden sword that you would have. There they are.
Yeah, I just
pulled in the middle.
Pulled up the trading cards. Yeah,
I'm sorry, I was trying to stall for you.
Yeah, the one in the middle is Ahsoka coming out of the water. Also, the bottom left, that kind of looks it's framed a little bit like the World Between Worlds. It's, the Anakin and Ahsoka kind of looking at each other. And the bottom right has Vader looming over Ahsoka's shoulder. Like I think there's a lot here. There's definitely this is definitely was what was on Dave's mind. And I'll shout out Din, who was on the pod last week. He wrote up at the time. He wrote up a blog post about analyzing these cards in the context that Dave gave, which was to go back and read the Tolkien letters if you wanted to try and understand what actually happened to Ahsoka. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. Amazing. To study these a bit more and see what else could be coming down the pipe. Now that we know that this is all from Filoni's mind, what could be coming next? So back to my thing, really quick. So obviously, Boken is a type of Japanese wooden sword. So basically, like a fake sword. So when you get to one of the last episodes, where Balin calls, I think this is an extra connection. This is a connection to a later episode. This is a preview for that connection corner. Balin calls Ezra a Boken Jedi, which I guess is just a slang for a fake Jedi. So I like that little connection. And this next one, I did not do this myself. Okay, this is sent in. I am always appreciating submitted connections. So, and this comes from our pal Hugh. So he says, and I wish I had the graphic. I'll have to post this online. But he says basically, Lieutenant Basie, who is the guy who is one of the pilots that dies when they take off to hyperspace. He has an emblem on his helmet that is almost identical to the one seen by Theron Nett, Red 10 from A New Hope. And the spot difference aspect in that is that Net's helmet had 7 green spots with yellow circle, whereas Baisie's version has 5 spots. This is nerdy even for me. This is like super detailed. I didn't even catch
deep.
This is so deep. Thank you for this, because I never would have caught this. So thank you.
All right. Well, I think that's there's no better place to end it than right there than with a listener submitted connection. So that wraps up another classic edition of Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right. For those of you following along at home, the poll that Ben has put out, not even close. Harrison Dula currently mopping the floor with Poe Dameron, 70.8% to 29.2%. That's with 271 votes. So far.
On Threads, we have 13 votes, and 100% of the vote is for Harrison Dula.
Wow. Oh, I love
no Poe fans on the Threads.
Oh, that's incredible.
Love it.
I feel like if this were, election night, I feel like we'd have called this already. I think it's pretty safe to say. But the thing is, there are 6 days left to vote, and who knows, maybe all the Hera listeners tune in live, and all the Poe fans are going to listen to this after the fact, and they're going to flood the vote. Could this be the green mirage, so to speak, where they
Poe stands? Where you at?
Yeah, the Poe fans, they're the mail-in voters. They'll submit their ballots will come in the next couple of days. All right, let's go around the table one final time, give final thoughts and scores out of 10 for Shadow Warrior. Hannah, start us off. Final thoughts, score out of 10 for this episode.
Incredible, emotional, impactful episode. It was full of so many meanings and moments. Just so fantastic. Actually, I didn't even speak of this. I briefly mentioned it right now. Not fully, completely obsessed with the young Ahsoka look. Little bit of trouble for me connecting with her look. I really love Ariana. I think she's a great actress. That's her name, right? Ariana Greenblatt. Yeah. Fantastic actress. Really enjoy her in the project she's been in. I think she did actually really fantastic with the role. I think you can definitely tell she put a lot of effort into this, and she did research, and she gave her own perfect expression of Ahsoka. I mean, in this shot specifically, this is actually my biggest gripe is the head tails. I hate to be that person, but I'm like, not fully looking like what it was. But I know it's, animations of live action is different. It's stylized, But so I'm kind of okay with it. I'm not actually that mad about it. But it's just like, just a little hair of me is still a little like, few things here and there stylistically. I didn't super love. So for that, it would have been a 10. But I do give it a very strong 9.5.
A strong 9.5. Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, I've given up trying to circle the square of Ahsoka's look, because even like adult Ahsoka Rosario, like it's still just like it's never going to be what I think it should be in my mind. So I've given up trying to circle the square, because I kind of had the same thoughts of like it's really, really close. It's really, really close, but it's never quite exactly whatever it is. Benjamin, final thoughts, score out of 10 for Shadow Warrior.
So, this was some spicy. No, I'm sorry. I'm not. This was some spicy Star Wars, but also it was a great episode. This episode. It broke my brain quite. I mean, obviously it broke me. It fired on all cylinders. It really did everything that I wanted. And it's funny you mentioned it off the top. Like, we knew going in this is going to be a big deal. They're like, oh, we're putting episode 5 in theaters. You're going to get to say to watch. Well, some of us will, some of us wouldn't.
Put it in like 5 theaters. It was like kind of weird.
A limited screening, like
limited that you can count on one
entire world. Oh boy. But so like we knew, okay, Sith is about to get real here. And it's going to be interesting. So, and I really lived up to all of that. And like, I genuinely, it's hard to put into words like how this is another episode that it's weird. I don't even think this is my favorite episode of the season, honestly, but it's definitely one of my favorite episodes of Star Wars television history. Like, it's just a momentous episode and a great little, bookend to the first 4 episodes, and obviously a lead in through the next bit of episodes, which I think is my favorite half of the season, these next 3. So all in all, I've thought about this and I'm like, I can't imagine giving anything less than a 10 out of 10. There's nothing about this that I even remotely dislike.
All right. 10 out of 10 from Ben. I'm also going to give it a 10. I didn't think I was until I rewatched it yesterday. And I finally had that breakthrough on the Anakin stuff. That finally made me realize, okay, yeah, this episode delivered on everything I could have asked it to. The Clone Wars flashbacks were amazing. The stuff with Jason was amazing. The stuff with the New Republic was amazing. The dialogue between Anakin and Ahsoka, I thought was really, really, really strong. And I thought it was really interesting to see Anakin at this point in his afterlife and to see him still struggling with, the consequences of what he did, of who he was in his life. And I think that should be continued to be explored. I think that should be continued to be explored, even though Dave has said that, he considers George to have had the final word on Anakin. I think there's still more to be said there. I think there's still more to be explored. I hope that is done so, although I'm very happy with what we got. So, 10 out of 10 from me. All right, let's get to Ask the SWU. We've got some questions that have been submitted over the last couple of weeks, and we'll start with a super chat from Orion CC1701, who just says, thoroughly enjoying this conversation, really loving your thoughts on this amazing episode after a long, busy day. This is perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you, Orion CC1701.
So nice.
That's such a nice
Wonderful.
super chat. Yeah, appreciate that. Since we didn't get to any of his last week, let's go to Joel Davis next. Joel says, I predict they'll deepfake Luke, Han, and Leia in the Filoni film, and that will automatically guarantee it a few $1 million. I mean, I feel like it's automatically guaranteed a few $1 million anyways, but but some other people in the chat chimed in and replied to this when Joel posted it at the first time. Skywalker's Academy says, I don't care if they deep fake or recast them. We need them in the movie, and I'm pretty sure it'll happen, as well as a young Ben and something about Rey's connection to him. Matthew Hardy says they don't need to deep fake Han. They can bring back Alden. And Matthew of Ion Cannon says, yes, I'll also recast the other 2. I do think all 3 need to be one or the other, or it'll be jarring. What do we think? Bringing back Luke, Han, and Leia for the Filoni film, and should they be deep faked? Should they be CGI? Or should they just go the old school recasting route? What are we thinking? How are we feeling?
I will say this. I will if we hear that there's going to be a Luke, Han, and Leia in the Mando movie, and they're all going to be CG deep fakes, I will be significantly less excited about that movie. Just my personal
damn.
What if they're recast?
What if it's all recast? That's what I'm saying. Recast them, damn it, please. Please, for the love of all things holy, recast them. Just get real actors on a real set and do it for real, for God's. Okay,
a real set that could be all green. It could be all green.
Yeah, that's fine. Just I don't care who they cast. I don't even care if they work. Like, I understand Alden doesn't work for everybody. That's fine. I don't even care if they just get real actors. Come on, please.
Mm-hmm. I think after everything with the actor strike and the writer strike, I feel like to go all in on the CGI characters again would be a little tone deaf. I feel like for the next little while, I think at the very least the studios are going to make a show of not wanting to do CGI AI recreations of characters, even though we've already seen them do it with I mean, Lucasfilm, just looking at Lucasfilm alone with Tarkin and young Indy and young Leia and all, and honestly, old Leia in The Rise of Skywalker, like all of that, all that stuff that they've already done. They have the ability to do it. I feel like we will see it swing back to that, but I think for the time being, if these characters are going to show up, it'll be Alden Ehrenreich and friends in these roles, which is my preference anyways. So we'll take that. Hannah, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think for now, I don't think they've gotten the balance of the CGI yet. I to be fair, I actually really enjoyed the look of Luke in Book of Boba Fett, but I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent, to be honest, at this point. But I kind of would prefer a recast. I agree.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the Discord. This question comes from Plagueis66. Says, do you think Nabisco will sponsor the show if double stuffed Oreos get more airtime? And we haven't done food metaphors in quite some time.
Oh my god, yeah.
We'll come up with some good ones for next week.
I'll whip one up.
Because we went during the Bad Batch, we went really hard on the Oreo metaphors, which was great. We gotta find every show should have its own
new poll. Which do you like better, Harrison Dula or Oreos? I don't know.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's so true.
Love it. Next up, Dr. Hugh 17 says this is from last week. They say, as it's Doctor Who's anniversary week, what connections can you make between that show and Star Wars? Tying into Ahsoka, we have David Tennant voicing Professor Hu Yang. But can you think of any other connections? It can be anything from casting to locations and beyond. I have a few examples. For example, Don Henderson, who was Cassio Teggy in A New Hope, was Gavrok Delta and the Bannerman in Doctor Who. Tosin Cole, who was Lieutenant Bastian in The Force Awakens, was Ryan Sinclair in series 11 and 12 of Doctor Who. And a location example, Lanzarote, which was Ferrix and Andor, and was itself the planet Sarn, and the planet Sarn in The Planet of Fire, Doctor Who. A few other people jumped in on this one. Joel threw in with Russell T Davies, who's the once and current showrunner of Doctor Who, was approached to be a writer on Lucas's never made Underworld series, although he was approached, he never actually took the job. Kajira says the Bendu's voice actor was one of the doctors, which was true. It's Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor.
Yeah.
And the Raven says there was an unsuccessful attempt to reinvent Doctor Who into two movies, which is not the 1996 one. And they starred Grand Moff Tarkin himself, Peter Cushing. This includes Doctor Who and the Daleks in 1965 and Daleks Invasion of Earth 2150 AD in 1966. There you go. Yeah, I mean, those are all great connections. I am a huge Doctor Who fan. Very excited. Very, very excited for these new episodes. I thought the first one was terrific. The Star Beast was a really, really, really excellent episode. And very much looking forward to the other two. And then, of course, Ncuti Gatwa taking over in the role at Christmas. I would like to see, after watching the Star Beast, I would like to see Russell T Davies take on Star Wars. I think that would be really, really interesting. I think he's a really talented and interesting writer, and the way he wrote the series during his first run was really good. But I feel like we're seeing a more mature, more interesting version of Russell in the current Doctor Who, and I'd love to see that guy take on Star Wars. So I'm
weirdly, I stopped watching my binge of Doctor Who back when David Tennant was first the Doctor. So now I am simultaneously watching this new season with David Tennant and going through old episodes that I've never seen before with David Tennant, obviously with him. And so I'm getting both ends of that spectrum. I'm agreeing with you. Like, yeah, I would love to see this, but Star Wars, like, that's great. And just not just that, but just all the things that people on the internet are complaining about that they don't like about this episode. That's what I like. That's what I'd like to see Star Wars do more.
Well, so what Russell T Davies did with the Star Beast is he took that criticism that people say, oh, I'm not blank, but I just want it to be part of the story. I don't want it to be shoehorned in. He made it part of the story, and people are just exposing themselves as, in this case, homophobic.
Literally and ingrained into the story. It's all part of it. You can connect it all. It's not it's not forced diversity. That's like,
Yeah.
just
yeah. And the episode's just great. So
it's genuine.
If
And
he
the
ever,
only go ahead.
if he ever moves on from Doctor Who again, I'd like to see him get a Star Wars movie or something. I think that'd be cool.
Be cool.
Hannah, are you in
and
smile
speaking
and
of-
nod mode?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, sure am, buddy. Sure am, buddy boy. Never seen anything of Doctor Who. The only Doctor Who encounter I had was as a 7-year-old child. Many years ago, my uncle showed up to a family gathering as a big Doctor Who fan that he is, in a cardboard box that he got from a new fridge. And he poked 2 plungers through the box. And he's inside the box and decorated to be a Dalek. And he came out to all the children, me and my cousins. And it was a horrible memory. It was so terrifying, so scary. Like, what the hell is happening? And he just exterminate. And that was, that's my, anyway, random
Uncle
canon
sounds
lore
like-
there for you.
Uncle sounds like an absolute legend. I think that is
Well,
so
you
good.
said
What a legend. What a
Yeah.
legend.
So I'm in smile and nod mode for this new stuff, though.
Incredible. Just amazing. All right, next question from Lucky Lego. So question for the next episode: do you think we will see a Clone Wars but in live action series or movie? I know there was rumors that it might happen, and if it does happen, what arcs would you like to see in the movie / TV series? So I guess they're asking about another Star Wars movie or Star Wars TV show that's set during the Clone Wars but is filmed in live action.
Right.
Do we think is that something people would be interested in? And if so, what storylines would we like to see tackled?
I think that's something that would just be so freaking cool, but I just don't think they would ever do that. I think they're like, Clone Wars was like good enough, like that's popular enough. We won't double down on it. I don't think they'll ever go there, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
What should they do if they went and did that? If there was like, okay, we got a live action Clone Wars movie. Like, I'm tempted to try and think of something that's outside the box, but honestly, I really think the Siege of Mandalore, the whole, from just that whole arc, because it only takes place over a short period of time, but that's 120 minutes of content there, live action, bulk it up with some extra scenes, make it a 2-hour movie. I think that could make a really cool live action movie. It's pretty epic, pretty nuts kind of scenes happen in it. So
Yeah. Ben?
Yeah.
What do you think? More Clone Wars live action?
See, I'm very conflicted about this question, and because it's talked about a lot, especially since this episode came out. I'm just like, more Clone Wars. Obviously, we got Ariana Greenblatt, we got Hayden back, we've got we've got everything in place. We've got all the pieces that we can do live action Clone Wars, and I get that. I spent so many years angry at Disney and bitter and that they didn't finish my favorite Star Wars show, and they did. And I came out of Siege of Mandalore in season 7 actually, being very satisfied, extremely satisfied with what we got, to the point where I was like I don't need anything else. I don't need more Clone Wars. I need more other Star Wars stories. I don't need to go back to that era. I think it's perfect as it is. Just leave it there. But we have these things, and yes, it's very tempting. And I think my thing is, I think I would prefer something along the lines of Tales of the Jedi. Just a small something vignette, one story. I feel like from a storytelling point of view, the Clone Wars era is very crowded with not just the TV show, but everything else, what this show puts in there. And then you have comics, books, whatever. There's a lot going on. And I feel like there's only so much more you could do believably that could actually fit in the story. And like, what is there to tell? Anakin and Ahsoka story have been told. What else can you do? So I would just love, just do anything, do a small, just a one story. If there's something that Filoni wants to do, do it. I'm not sure there's enough for a movie. That said, look, I'll be first to buy a ticket if they make a live action Clone Wars movie. Don't get me wrong here. Okay. I will absolutely eat that crap up. So don't get me wrong here, but I am very particular about if I had to choose, which I don't. I have no choice in the matter whatsoever. So my opinion is void.
Yeah, I think more Clone Wars flashbacks and stuff is definitely going to happen. I think that feels like it's just bound to happen because it's such a pivotal moment in so many characters' storylines. And yeah, there is part of me that thinks you've got Hayden, you've got Ariana Greenblatt. There's a very limited window where the two of them can continue to play those characters at this time. So part of me thinks just screw it, just do it. Like just do it so you've done it. And like it's for me, it's kind of hard to argue with that because we could be sitting here 20 years from now going, I wish they'd done it then. So I think that's part of it. The other thing is if we're gonna go back to animation, animate the freaking Bounty Hunters arc. For crying, you made it so pivotal.
Freaking men.
The Book of Boba Fett, like at the and you can't fix the Book of Boba Fett necessarily, or fix that part of the Book of Boba Fett, but you can at the very least tell that story so it's there. So I'd like that storyline to be tackled sooner rather than
or we can't miss another element of this. Ewan is back as Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
do the Crystal Crisis arc. Do that in live action.
Did you guys see? I watched that this week on the channel.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. For the first time, like live reacted
it's so
to
good,
it.
Is it not?
It's so good. I'm like, this is the perfect like ramp into revenge. Oh my god, yeah.
It's fantastic.
Anakin dual wielding blasters. Come on, I want to see Hayden do that for real.
Yeah. So you did like was it a live stream or was it a reaction video? How'd you go?
A live stream.
Can people go back and watch it?
Because it's just yeah. It's up there.
No. It was lost to time.
Moments.
She didn't record it because that's not what you do on
delete
the internet. It's not a thing.
Live or nothing.
live or it's live or die. That's the advice that Anakin is giving.
That's the lesson. That's the lesson I'm giving to my audience.
Live or die.
No, that's actually funny. You've got to be there literally, otherwise you can never see what I do.
Yeah, amazing. Ben, this next question is directed at you. It comes from Matt. It says, very serious question that I need answered tonight. When is Ben coming on Ion Canon? It's been almost 2 years. Answer the man's question, Ben. When?
That's so funny.
Look, I know. I'm as mad as you are, okay, Matt? I'm as mad as you are about
Calm down with the excitement there, Ben.
I work Mondays, okay?
Read a damn book, would you? Read a damn book and you can go on the show.
I feel called out. It doesn't work with my schedule. Also, I haven't read a High Republic book in like 2 years. So that's a real big handicap for me. But I promise
Ben.
Matt, Joel, I'll catch up and I'll be on your show. I promise. One day.
Read a book, man. Just really quickly on the High Republic. The Eye of Darkness, the new High Republic novel.
It's good.
A+. Really good.
Darkness,
might be my new favorite High Republic story. And final one for tonight from Wolf Dog. Do we think we will see Hayden do more Star Wars? Maybe not as Anakin or Darth Vader, but maybe in a producing / voice acting role or another character. I think this kind of comes from the fact that Hayden signed back on with his old agency and sort of indicating that he's not just going to do more Star Wars. He's going to do more acting in general. I think we're going to see more of him in Star Wars as Anakin. I think there's more there. There's more opportunities for that. I don't think he's going to go into producing. I don't think he's done any of that. I don't know if that's something he wants to do. And so it would feel odd to do that right away. But I feel like he's going to stick around as Anakin definitely for a while. I don't think he's done by any stretch of the imagination. All right. So those are the questions for this week. Again, if you want to submit questions for next week, join the Discord. That's the place to submit your questions for Ask the SWU or tune in live, submit a super chat, do a financial contribution to the show, and we'll read out your question on the air. And I think with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this week. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. We will be back next week, same time, same place, to discuss episodes 6 and 7 of Ahsoka. That's right, we're getting ever nearer to the finale, to finally discussing how this series wrapped up. And of course, next week, Thrawn's debut, so much to get into there. Ezra's debut, so much to get into there, and everything else that goes down in this episode. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a great discussion. Looking forward to talking about it then. Ben, thank you as always for being on this week.
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure, especially talking about what we were talking about this week, which was one of the best episodes of Star Wars ever. It was so good. I have so many things, like we could talk like for another 2 hours. I feel like that was the intro. This is the actual show now. We're going to be able to talk about, just fully get into it, because you can so many podcasts just about this episode. But we don't have time for that. There's other episodes to talk about. We have to do that next week. It's crazy. There's so much good Star Wars. But yeah, this was fun, and I cannot wait to do it again next week, and I will point you in the direction of my other podcast, IPC. Yes, I finally came back from vacation. I edited that stupid episode. You can like and listen to it. It's in your podcast feeds. We paid farewell to the late, great Matthew Perry. I watched Friends for the first time ever. That was an experience. And, yeah.
And just working his way through old TV shows. He's like, Doctor Who, Friends. Let's get
just all kinds of things. And I also watched something new. I watched Loki season 2. That was a lot of fun. And we had to pick 3 of our favorite holiday foods, which was a heck of a lot of fun. And also breaking news on Threads from the Star Wars Underworld Threads account. Poe Dameron has a grand total of 13% of the votes.
13% on Threads. Well, it's over. Hannah, thank you as always for being on. If people want to check out the Raeside, what's the best way they can do that?
You can check me out on YouTube at the Raeside, RAE-side, and it's the same handle on all social medias as well. I can't move on. I gotta go listen to that podcast that you did, Ben, of the best. What would you say? The best holiday foods.
Holiday,
like you Americans. I've seen the holiday foods you have.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
It's all like mushy ham and water. Like, look, mixed beetroot and nuts. Like, what? Can you just make some like fresh food for once? Why is it? Let's mix canned things with cheese.
Yeah.
It's like,
you know what?
What part of any of that is nice?
Yeah, let me jump in here and say I love a good Thanksgiving dinner. I love a good Christmas dinner. Like it is good food, but it's severely overrated. Severely, there are way better things to eat. And if you said you have the choice between a Thanksgiving dinner and then a barbecue dinner, I'm going barbecue every single time, y'all.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know why we're pinning this on Ben. Like, Ben invented the meals for the holiday dinners.
Yeah.
But,
so we're gonna
anyway
take this out.
Yeah, because we didn't figure in any like cultural differences. We were trying to keep it to the stuff. We got enough flack from our own audience. I don't need to get you.
That's such an American-centric view of podcasting. This thing that is literally available in every country in the world.
America.
And you guys are like, we're doing an American-only episode. Thank you very much, because that's all that matters.
I love it.
God bless America.
Where's my flag? Where's my?
That's all I had to say, though. I just had
very
to.
Good. Check out the Raeside. Check out the Raeside. I will one final check-in with the polls, at least on the Twitter, with a total of 542 votes cast. Harrison Dulo currently leading with 69.7% percent of the vote. Poe Dameron trailing.
There's a lot of shade being thrown in the quote tweets. Some are just daring that we even dare to compare Hera to Poe. Others are saying that we left out Han. Which that was a skill. That was a calculated thing. Okay, we left out Han for a reason. And then there's a lot of Anakin stands that are mad at us too. So we're not making anybody happy tonight.
Just pissed off everybody. I love it.
Yeah,
good stuff. All right, so that's good. That's what's going on with the polls. We'll check in next week and see what the final results are. But I think we know who's going to win at this point. Again, we'll just quickly run through everything. Make sure you subscribe to the Star Wars Underworld on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your shows. If you want to support us financially, you can become a channel member. You can also super chat during live shows. And if wherever you listen to your podcasts allows you to leave a review, we would really appreciate if we would leave us a 5-star one. And between shows, join the Discord for continuing discussions and for the opportunity to submit more questions to Ask the SWU. Follow us on social media at the SWU, pretty much everywhere, including Twitter and Threads. Don't forget about Threads. Can't forget about Threads. All 13.
We're blowing up on Threads, y'all.
13% of the vote. And of course, listen to all the great shows. Listen and watch all the great shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including the Raeside, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, which are both on their own channels, and Ion Cannon and the Tractor Beam, which are both on this channel and can be listened to Mondays at 8:30 for Ion Cannon. That's 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and 12:30 p.m. Eastern on your Thursdays for your Tractor Beam. And of course, this show is 9 p.m. on Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. That is 6 p.m. Pacific. Tune in, don't miss an episode, or just listen to it after the fact on your podcast, like you probably do most of the time.
No. This gets deleted after we do this.
Yes.
This
That's right.
That's
right.
After we're
Live
or dead.
Live or die. Here we go.
Live or die.
Incredible. So that is it for the episode. We will see you all again in 7 days' time. For Ben, for Hannah, for Chris, who is still watching the holiday special documentary, my name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.